The irony wasn't lost on me as I watched Kate Thompson, my husband's mistress for the past 2 years, nervously pacing through my living room. The same room where she'd seduced Robert during our holiday party, while I was upstairs putting our daughter to bed. I didn't know who else to reach out to, she said, her hands twisting together. Robert won't answer my calls, and the FBI showed up at my office today, asking about the investment accounts. My name is Claire Bennett. Until 6 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life, a successful husband, a beautiful home in one of Boston's wealthiest neighborhoods, and a sweet 5-year-old daughter. That was before I found the text messages. "Sit down, Kate," I said coolly, motioning to the couch. "Tell me everything." She sank into the expensive leather sofa, her designer clothes rumpled from stress. It started 2 years ago. Robert said he had this foolproof method for making huge returns for his clients. He just needed to borrow some money temporarily from other accounts. I nodded, maintaining a sympathetic expression, while my phone silently recorded every word. "And you helped him move the money?" I asked. "I didn't know it was wrong at first," she protested. "He told me it was all legal, just creative accounting. By the time I figured out what was really happening," she trailed off, staring at her manicured hands. "By then, you were already deep in it," I finished for her, "both in the fraud and with Robert." She looked up sharply. "How did you find out about the affair?" I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "The same way I found out about the $47 million you and Robert embezzled from his clients. I'm thorough, Kate." Her face went ashen. "I don't get it," she whispered. "If you knew, why didn't you confront me, leave Robert, or report it to the authorities?" I stood and walked over to my office, because that would have been too easy. I returned holding a thick folder. "Tell me, Kate, did Robert ever mention what I did before I became a stay-at-home mom?" She shook her head in silence. "I was a forensic accountant for the SEC," I said, flipping open the folder. "I specialized in investment fraud. In fact, Robert and I met when I was investigating his previous firm. He was a whistleblower then, helping expose his boss's pyramid scheme. Irony, huh?" Kate's hands began to tremble. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because," I said, pulling out a document, "in about 30 minutes, Robert is going to walk through that door. He just got a very interesting call from his biggest client, threatening to pull all their investments. He'll be desperate, scared, and looking for someone to blame." I checked my watch. "And at that moment, the FBI will be executing search warrants at both your office and his. Perfect timing, don't you think?" She whispered, "You tipped them off." I smiled. "I did more than that. Want to see exactly what I've been doing for the last 6 months, while you and Robert thought you were so clever?" Kate stared at the documents I laid out on the coffee table: bank statements, transfer records, email printouts, and surveillance photos. 6 months of meticulous evidence gathering, all mapped out like a roadmap of betrayal. "That's impossible," she murmured, picking up a photo of her and Robert at a hotel in New York. "We were so careful." "Careful?" I chuckled softly. "You used his corporate credit card to book the room, Kate. Did you really think I wouldn't notice when I reviewed the monthly expenses?" Her eyes widened. "You've been tracking us since Valentine's Day?" "I pay for your Valentine's dinner," I replied. "Robert told me it was a business dinner, but he forgot to switch out his personal card when he paid for your romantic getaway. Sloppy." The front door creaked open, followed by Robert's voice. "Claire, we need to talk." He froze in the doorway, his already pale face going completely white when he saw Kate sitting on the couch. "Hello, darling," I said pleasantly. "Kate was just filling me in on your creative investment strategies." "What is she doing here?" he demanded, his voice breaking. "Falling apart, just like you," I responded. "The FBI is probably at your office by now. Did you really think you could steal $47 million and no one would notice?" Robert's expensive suit suddenly looked too tight as he tugged at his collar. "Whatever you think you know," he began. "I know everything," I interrupted. "Every transfer, every fake account, every lie. I've been documenting it all since I found out about your affair." Kate stood up, shaking. "Robert, what are we going to do? They're asking about the Peterson account." "Shut up," he snapped at her, then turned to me with forced calm. "Claire, honey, this is all a misunderstanding. I can explain." I raised my phone, playing a recording. Move another million from the Wilson Trust. No one checks those accounts anyway. Kate can falsify the quarterly statements as usual. His face twisted with fury. You recorded me, your own husband. Ex-husband, soon enough, I corrected. But that's the least of your problems right now. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. An FBI agent named Marcus Chen had sent a text. Search warrants executed. Evidence secured. Moving to arrest phase. Expect visitors shortly. I showed them the text. You've got about 10 minutes to figure out your next move. Robert lunged for my phone, but I was prepared. I stepped back, pressing a button on my desk. The room's hidden cameras hummed to life, the red recording lights flickering. Be careful, I warned. Assaulting a federal informant will only add to your charges. Kate's voice faded as realization sank in. You've been working with the FBI this whole time. Ever since I found proof of your theft, I confirmed. Agent Chan was particularly interested in the evidence I collected, especially regarding where you hid the money. Robert's expression shifted from rage to calculation. I could almost see the wheels turning in Robert's head as he tried to figure out how to talk his way out of this mess. See, LA, he said, his voice lowering, the kind of tone he used when he wanted something. We can fix this. Think about Sophie, our daughter needs her father. Don't even try it, I hissed, the steadiness in my voice wavering for the first time. Don't use our daughter as a pawn. Where was your concern for Sophie when you were raiding her college fund to buy Kate diamonds? A sound from outside made us all turn toward the window. The flash of red and blue lights illuminated the living room walls as FBI vehicles rolled up to the house. Your time's up, I said softly. Here's what happens now. You're both getting arrested. The evidence I've gathered doesn't just expose the theft. It shows the full extent of the cover-up. Every forged document, every falsified signature, every lie you've told your clients. Robert's posture sagged as the weight of the situation hit him. How much do you want? He asked, voice trembling. Excuse me? I said, confused. To make us disappear, he stammered, desperation creeping in. There has to be something you want. Money, the house, full custody? I gave him a smile, but it lacked any warmth. You still don't get it, do you? I don't want anything from you. I've already taken everything I need. Kate's voice cracked. What do you mean? 3 months ago, I convinced Robert to transfer all his legitimate assets into my name to shield them from market swings. Remember, sweetheart? I turned to Robert. The house, the cars, the Vermont property, they're all legally mine now. Robert's complexion shifted from ghostly pale to bright red. You planned all of this. I also emptied our joint accounts yesterday, I added calmly. Don't worry, I left behind a trail that shows you moved the funds to one of your shell companies. Good luck explaining that to the FBI. A sharp knock at the door startled Kate. But that's not even the best part, I said, walking toward the door. Want to hear what I did with the money? Neither of them said a word as I opened the door to Agent Chen and his team. I donated it, I announced. Every cent to a fund I created for your victims. When combined with the assets I'll be liquidating, it should help recover a significant portion of what you stole. You can't do that, Robert shouted as the agents began to read him his rights. That money was mine too. Actually, Agent Chen cut in. Mrs. Bennett had every legal right to move those funds, and her cooperation has been crucial to our investigation. As the agents escorted Robert and Kate in handcuffs, I stood by the door. My daughter Sophie was at my sister's place, probably watching cartoons and eating too much ice cream, blissfully unaware that her life was about to change forever. Mrs. Bennett, Agent Chen called from behind. There's still some paperwork. Of course, I replied, leading him to my office. Everything's ready for you. Later that night, after the FBI had left and the house was still, I sat in the living room with a glass of wine. My phone buzzed nonstop, news updates on Robert's arrest, shocked messages from friends, frantic texts from his family. I ignored them, instead pulling up my laptop to check on the restitution fund I'd set up for his victims. The money I took from Robert, along with the proceeds from selling his assets, would help recover some of what he had stolen. Perhaps not all, but enough to make a real impact. A text from my sister lit up my phone. Sophie's asking for you. You okay? I grinned as I typed, better than okay. I'll be there to get her in a minute. As I drove to pick up my daughter, I reflected on the road ahead. There would be tough talks, adjustments, and probably some tears. But Sophie would grow up knowing that her mother stood up to wrongdoers, that actions have consequences, and that true strength comes from making hard choices. The next morning, I woke to headlines. Prominent investment manager arrested in $47 million fraud scheme. Wife's evidence key to breaking investment fraud case. Victims to receive restitution from unprecedented recovery effort. Robert's lawyer tried to strike a deal. Kate's family pleaded for leniency. I blocked their numbers. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice, about making things right, about teaching my daughter what integrity looks like. 1 year later, I sat in the courtroom as Robert and Kate received their sentences minus 15 years each, no parole. The judge cited the premeditated nature of their crimes and their utter lack of remorse. As they were led away, Robert turned to look at me one last time. I met his gaze unwaveringly, thinking about all the lies, the nights I spent gathering evidence while he thought I was unaware, all the times he dismissed me as just a housewife. I smiled and waved goodbye. Later that evening, I took Sophie out for ice cream. She was 6 now, old enough to start asking questions about why Daddy wasn't around anymore. "Mommy," she said, her face smeared with chocolate, "are you sad about Daddy?" I wiped her chin, choosing my words carefully. "I'm sad about the choices he made," I told her, "but I'm proud of the choices I made to set things right." She nodded, content with my response. "Can we get another scoop?" I laughed, a real laugh, the first one in ages. "Sure, sweetie, we can have as many scoops as we want." Life wasn't perfect, but it was honest, and it was ours. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about tearing someone down. It's about rebuilding something better from the ruins of their betrayal. And as I watched my daughter savor her second cone, I knew I had made the right choice. Robert and Kate had chosen greed and deceit. I had chosen truth and justice. And in the end, that made all the difference. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video. Stay stunned.